Everyone keeps talking about the Eagles, the Lions, and the 49ers, but they're looking in the wrong place. The Seattle Seahawks may have just become the NFL's most dangerous team, and if the league still isn't taking Mike Macdonald and Sam Darnold seriously, it's about to learn the hard way.
One team only, the Rams. They might be able to do it because they play such a clean, smart, efficient style of football. They don't make as many mistakes as the Seahawks do. They're not as penalized as Seattle. They're not going to make the turnovers that Seattle does. They're a cleaner version. Are they as good a version? Well, look at these numbers. This is how crazy it is. The Rams and Seahawks have played twice, each with a win. The Rams have scored 58 points, the Seahawks 57. The Rams have 830 total yards. The Seahawks have 829. I mean, folks, we all knew this. I mean, about week 7 or 8, didn't you look at yourself and think, okay, Green Bay is falling apart physically, and so are the Niners. And Philadelphia couldn't get their offensive act together. And Chicago was really good, but it felt like maybe the defense was a year away. And then there's the Panthers. Child, please. This Seattle team in Seattle, cold and wet. I mean, they have made Christian McCaffrey disappear twice in the last few weeks. Disappear. The Rams are the number 1 scoring offense. The Seahawks are the number 1 scoring defense. It will be best against best. And in my opinion, the 2 best young coaches in football at the helm. McVay's the best coach, arguably in the league, certainly the best young coach. Seattle said, you know what? McVay and Shanahan are in this division. We're not going to hire the 3rd best offensive guy. We're going to go get a defensive guy, Mike Macdonald, and he is the defensive version of McVay. Handsome, tough, culture builder, respected, player-friendly, holds players accountable while being that. So I've said this all year with Seattle. Turn the sound down and watch them play. Don't listen to the announcers or the crowd. Turn the sound down. They don't look like any other team. It's like you get the Texans defense with a more dynamic offense.
So I just pulled up the running back groups from the last few years. So like last year, I would have had Genty and Omarion Hampton over him. I gave him the same grade I gave to Judkins and Travion Henderson, who were 36 and 38 picks. Okay. The year before that, he would have been, I had the same grade on him as I had on the top backs in that class. So I would have had him stacked over all those guys. Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, that whole group was not great. He'd be behind Bijan. He'd be behind Jameer. He'd be above Charbonnet in 23 and 22. I gave him the same grade I gave Kenneth Walker. He would have been just behind Breece Hall, but that would have been close, but just behind him. So that's kind of the...
I don't think we've talked to you since the Seahawks signed Dante Fowler. What do you make of that signing and what he would bring to this defense?
Yeah, I think it's a fit. It's a match. Energy, effort, like he's got power. He's never been the most polished guy, and that's just not who he is as a rusher. But he's someone who's playing 100 miles an hour at all times. And I think in these roles where he doesn't have to be, a huge share of the rep guy, where you can be able to keep him fresh and keep him rolling through. I think he definitely fits with what they're looking for in those guys. So I thought it was a good match.
All eyes on them. How hard do you think it is for rookies to enter a team that is going to be in the spotlight like that, as opposed to having some time, with a team that just is not going to be playing probably 6 primetime games this year? How much harder is it to succeed as a rookie in that situation, if at all?
I honestly don't think it's an issue. I think if you're playing at the Carolina Panthers at 1, Eastern, your first NFL game, you're going to have the same amount of nerves and excitement and energy as you would if you're playing, as a defending Super Bowl champ in primetime, in a standalone game. I just think you're going to be nervous no matter who you are in your first NFL game. And I think these guys, when they're wired the right way.
So honestly, we'll let you go. You've been very gracious in the season, pre-draft, post-draft, all of it. But as you're kind of doing your prep, is Hard Knocks. You're going to get to see the Seahawks on Hard Knocks. What are 2 or 3 things on Daniel Jeremiah's Seahawks watch list over the next couple months?
Yeah. So this one is, you might think this is out of left field, but I was talking to another team, and you've got I would say there's probably 8 to 10 coaches in the NFL that are viewed as the elite of the elite in terms of like a side of the ball, right? Like their knowledge and their ability to build an offense or build a defense. And one of the things, I talked to one of these teams who have one of these coaches who's on the offensive side of the ball, said he is spending an unbelievable amount of time on the opposite side of the ball. So I'd be curious for this team and the defense humming like it is. I'm curious to see if the head coach is going to go even spend a little bit more time and see if he can take everything he knows from the defensive side of the ball and continue to maybe pour into the offensive side of the ball. I think that's a trend. I think that's coming right now in the NFL. As you're going to see some of these guys with expertise switching over and trying to find the next thing or to poke holes. So that'd be one thing. If I was going out to practice, I'd be keeping an eye on that.
Okay.
Is Mike going over there doing some work there? The next thing I would keep an eye on is just, we talked about a guard position more than any other radio segment in the history of mankind. So I'm curious to see what, Bradford can hold on to that job or what that looks like there. So I'd be keeping an eye on that if I was going out there. And then the last thing I would keep an eye on is I really think that this is the new bar for Sam. Like, I don't think Sam's going back. And I'm curious to see, is there even another level that Sam can get to now with the confidence of a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Is there another level he can get to?
Did you see that Graziano piece the other day wondering why the Seahawks didn't extend Sam this offseason and pay him more? And Brock and I talked about it yesterday. It's like, well, he's got 2 years left. They kind of have a club policy of not negotiating until you have 1 year left. So in that way, sort of a moot point. But, with these debates on paying quarterbacks, can you imagine a world where Sam Darnold is getting paid in that, 50 plus million range like some of the top guys in the league?
I think he's heading towards that direction. And if they're not, if they're going to stick to their guns on their policy and he comes out and has a year that approaches what he did last year, I would say he's going to land in that ballpark. And I think he's also going to get the benefit of who he is as a person, of like, okay, I don't feel super comfortable paying this, but he's going to allow me to feel a little bit more comfortable because of who he is and how he's viewed and the locker room.
Maybe I'm naive,
so.
DJ.
They're looking in the wrong direction. Because while the national conversation is chasing yesterday's contenders, something dangerous has quietly taken shape in Seattle. And here's the uncomfortable truth for the rest of the NFL. If teams still believe Mike Macdonald's Seahawks are just another rebuilding project, or that Sam Darnold was simply a one-year story, they're setting themselves up for a very expensive mistake. Seattle isn't trying to copy anyone. They're trying to become something nobody knows how to stop. That's exactly why this team is becoming one of the most fascinating and possibly most dangerous stories entering the new NFL season. But the numbers behind that claim are even more shocking, because once you compare Seattle with the Rams, the conversation changes completely. Take a closer look at Seattle's rivalry with Los Angeles. These aren't just two playoff-caliber teams. They're statistical mirror images. Across their two meetings, the Rams scored 58 points. Seattle scored 57. The Rams produced 830 total offensive yards. Seattle finished with 829. 1 yard. One single yard separated the two teams over 2 games. Yet the difference wasn't talent. It was efficiency. The Rams consistently played cleaner football. Fewer penalties. Fewer costly mistakes. Better bowl security. That's why many believe Sean McVay's team currently owns the edge. But here's where the debate becomes fascinating. Because Seattle may not need to become the Rams. They only need to eliminate the self-inflicted mistakes. If that happens, the ceiling becomes frightening. And what makes Seattle different isn't just the offense. It's the identity Mike Macdonald has built. For years, the NFC West belonged to offensive masterminds. Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. Instead of hiring another offensive copycat, Seattle made a completely different decision. They hired the defensive genius. Mike Macdonald isn't trying to out-McVay Sean McVay. He's becoming the defensive version of him. Demanding, respected, player-focused. A culture builder who holds veterans and rookies to exactly the same standard. And perhaps the biggest proof came against elite offenses. Seattle's defense made Christian McCaffrey, a player capable of taking over any game, virtually disappear in multiple matchups. Meanwhile, the Rams finished as the league's #1 scoring offense. Seattle developed into the #1 scoring defense. Best against best. Young superstar coach versus young superstar coach. That's the kind of football that changes divisions. But defense alone doesn't explain why expectations inside Seattle continue to rise. The roster itself may have become significantly stronger. Talent evaluators continue to rave about Seattle's newest additions. One running back prospect earned draft grades comparable to Kenneth Walker. In previous draft classes, evaluators believed he would have ranked alongside names like Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson. Some even argued he would have graded above Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, and Blake Corum. That's serious company. Then comes veteran edge rusher Dante Fowler. He's not known as the most technically polished pass rusher. But effort? Relentless. Energy? Non-stop. Playing every snap at 100 miles per hour fits perfectly into Seattle's defensive rotation. Fresh legs. Constant pressure. Maximum intensity. Exactly the type of identity Mike Macdonald wants. And then comes the biggest question that could determine everything. The quarterback. Sam Darnold may no longer be fighting for respect. Now he's chasing something much bigger. The next contract? Around the league, elite quarterbacks are crossing the $50 million per year mark. Can Sam Darnold join that conversation? Many around the NFL believe he's moving in exactly that direction. If he delivers another season close to his recent level of play, Seattle may have no choice. Just as important as the statistics is something coaches repeatedly mention: leadership, professionalism, locker room respect. Those qualities don't appear on the stat sheet, but they often determine whether organizations commit hundreds of millions of dollars to one player. Now imagine this: an improving Sam Darnold, a dominant defense, young offensive weapons, and one of football's fastest rising head coaches. Maybe the Seahawks aren't chasing the NFL's elite anymore. Maybe they're about to become them. And if the rest of the league still isn't paying attention, they're about to learn the hard way.
Yo, mic check 1 to 2, -1, -2. Game over for this video, folks. Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to stay in the huddle for more. This is NFL Madness, bringing the heat and signing out.